What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're making a Transformers TCG video. I'm so excited. We've not done a Transformers TCG video in ages. It's been a couple of weeks, it's been a few weeks. And the reason is there's been lots of stuff going on over at the Digimon trading card game. And there's been a whole bunch of stuff going on with Marvel Champions and with Keyforge. We just haven't had a bunch of Transformers news. Since we had the end of the reveals from Wave 5, we just haven't had a huge amount to talk about. Well, the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, Wave 5 is out. I am recording this first FAQ video on the release date of this particular set. And that means there is a new FAQ. We're going to split it into two halves. Today we're going to be talking about character cards. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about battle cards. And I am just going to be pretty gosh darns delighted that I finally get to talk about the Transformers trading card game again, because there's stuff going on in the Transformers trading card game again. Yay! And for anyone wondering, no, I have nothing against the Transformers trading card game. I've loved it since before it came out. I still love it. It is still one of my very, very favourite games in the world. There was just nothing going on at all. No more, ladies and gentlemen. No more. So let's start off having a look at the FAQ. And we really need to start off with head mode and body mode. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, that is the big new change in Wave 5, Titan Masters Attack. What we have is these bodies and heads which can be put together to make a new Transformer. So, for instance, you could have Skull Smasher, one of my favourite cards from the set, and that would be a nice little Decepticon body, but you could put it together with Clobber, my favourite head from the set, which just so happens to be an Autobot head. Or can you? Yeah, let's start off with these questions. So the character card with head mode and the one with body mode each have stars. Do those stars all count towards my deck limit? So for instance, to go back to Skull Smasher, we can see that we have an 11-star character, whereas with Clobber, we have a 4-star character. Yeah, you add them together. So for instance, if you had Skull Smasher with Clobber as the head, then you would be rocking a 15-star character. You would have 10 stars available to spend on the other cards in your deck. What happens if the character card flips? Because bearing in mind, right, Skull Smasher has a body mode and a crocodile mode, an alt mode, and you can flip between them in the same way you can in, well, any character we've seen so far. And the answer is the head always applies. So Clobber as a head gives you bold free. You get to flip 3 extra cards when you're attacking. If you're in body mode, it looks like a complete character and you get free bold. If you're in alt mode, you've got a crocodile with a head stuck on the top and it doesn't look anywhere near as nice and normal as natural, but you still get bold free. Yay! Are there any limits on heads and bodies you can put together? Nope. Not even Autobots and Decepticons. It's why I deliberately used an Autobot and a Decepticon example in this video. There is absolutely, well, no, that's not strictly true, is it? The FAQ says they're completely mix and match, but that's not actually true now, is it? Because you see, we've got Cerebros, who gives you bold 1 and tough 1, but specifically reads, this begins on Fortress Maximus, Great War Veteran in head mode. This begins with a character on him in head mode. This can't flip. So actually, it's not completely mix and match. Let's be clear, because Cerebros is not completely mix and match. If I have a head, now here is the big question. If I have a head from one faction on a body from a different faction, which faction is the resulting character? Both. The character is both an Autobot and a Decepticon. So for instance, if we were to take Noble's Blaster as an example, this is a card designed for Autobots. Noble's Blaster can only be put onto Autobots, and if you're attacking a Decepticon, you get PS2, as well as having +2 attack. Scoundrel's Blaster is the counterpart to it, can only be put onto Decepticons, gives you PS2 against an Autobot, while giving you +2 attack. Either of those cards could be put onto a head/body, where one is an Autobot and one is a Decepticon. And if you're thinking, well, hang on a second, that makes it sound like there's a lot more deck building options now. I can put a nice cheap Decepticon head on an Autobot and all of a sudden gain myself access to all of those lovely Decepticon cards. Yes. Yes, you can. Now, here is another very important question. If I have a character that's both an Autobot and a Decepticon, does my starting team have only Autobots? So if we were to take a card like Confidence, for instance, Confidence lets you draw 2 cards, scrap 2 cards, and then if you began the game with only Autobot characters, you may play an action. So what if I've got a half Autobot, half Decepticon Titan Master? Well, then you didn't start with all Autobots, did you? Because you also had a Decepticon. Now, your Decepticon might have been half Autobot, half Decepticon, but you still had a Decepticon on your starting team. It doesn't count. And then finally in this part, can I put a card with head mode or body mode in my sideboard? Yes. But remember that each card is a separate character card, and you're only allowed to have one character card in your sideboard, so you could have a head in your sideboard, or you could have a body in your sideboard, but remember that you cannot have both a head and a body in your sideboard. That is against the rules. One character in your sideboard. Now, we briefly mentioned Fortress Maximus earlier. Fortress Maximus is a very special character in this set. And when you buy a box, you do get Fortress Maximus, and Cerebros and Emissary, and essentially you start with Fortress Maximus with Cerebros as a head. When that goes down, you have Cerebros with Emissary as a head. When that goes down, you have Emissary as a bot, and when that goes down, you gone. So it is a mono character deck, but it's also a free wide deck, as weird as that might be. You also must have Cerebros as your head, so they're not completely mix and match. I don't know why this upsets me so much. Also, fun little side note here, Cerebros is the only character that has a head mode and a body mode. How cool is that? Because generally you have head and bot. Now, in the same way as we saw earlier, all of these 3 count towards your star limit. So you've got Fortress Maximus, who comes in as a 14-star character. You add in Cerebros, who comes in as a 7-star character. Now you're up to 21. You add Emissary here, who comes in as a 4-star character. And oh, look, we have a 25-star character. Who could possibly have seen that coming? Now, while Fortress Maximus is on the battlefield, it does get the Bold 1 and Tough 1 from Cerebros, but it doesn't get the Focus 2 from Emissary. The way to think about it is like this. Emissary only comes out as a head for Cerebros, so you only get it when Cerebros is your character. When Fortress Maximus is your character, Emissary is nowhere to be found. It's like being at a tournament and remembering that you've left a card at home that you wouldn't mind popping into your deck or sideboard. You might have the card, but you can't use it till you get home. It's not there now. Emissary's there, but you can't use it till Cerebros comes out. There we go. Now, when Fortress Maximus is KO, Cerebros goes onto the battlefield in body mode with the head. But do remember that Cerebros cannot flip because it's got head mode and body mode. Well, you can't flip from body mode into head mode. That don't make no sense, ladies and gentlemen. So unfortunately, it is a character that cannot flip. Can you play Emissary, though, with any other character? Absolutely. Emissary is all good. Fortress Maximus has to have Cerebros. Cerebros has to go on Fortress Maximus. But Emissary works like any other head. Yay! So we've talked about your Titan Masters generally, we've talked about Fortress Maximus, now we need to flick through some other character cards. So Autobot Nautica then. This is one of the boats we got in this new wave. Now this has +1 defense for each blue icon that is flipped when you are defending against a car, a truck, or a tank in alt mode. Very nice. Now, of course, some people have asked the question, well, doesn't everybody get +1 defense for every blue icon that's flipped? That's kind of what blue icons do. And the answer is no, in addition. So Autobot Nautica, if you flip 3 blue icons, instead of the usual +3 defense, you would get +6 defense, which is what makes Autobot Nautica quite good. Now, in body mode, you actually have a nice skill here as well. When you defend, you may play an armor onto her. From where? And this goes back to a general rule we've had in Transformers pretty much since the beginning. When it doesn't specify where a card is coming from, it has to be from your hand. If the card is coming from your scrap pile, etc., then it will be specified when you're playing the card that lets you attach it. Autobot Whirl in bot mode says that you cannot take more than 5 damage from a single attack from a ranged character. Well, how does this work with other effects that modify the amount of attack damage that a character can take? And the answer is it doesn't. It lets everything else resolve, and then if the damage would be more than 5, it brings it down to 5. So, for argument's sake, let's take Blast Suit as an example. Blast Suit says if the upgraded character would take attack damage, instead it takes half that damage rounded down, and you scrap this card. So if your opponent goes to do 7 damage, Blast Suit would take it down to 3, half is 3.5, and then you round down. And then Autobot Nautica goes, oh, you're only taking 3 damage, we're good. Whereas if you would be taking 14 damage, Blast Suit brings it down to 7, and Autobot World goes, oh, no, sorry, I can't actually take 7 damage. I'm only taking 5. And it only takes 5. How about that there Beachcomber? Now, Beachcomber in alt mode has a lovely skill. When you flick to this mode, name a card, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is the named card, you draw 3 cards. What if it's not? Nothing. If it is the named card, you draw 3 cards, the one you looked at and 2 more. If it isn't, you don't. So what happens? You reveal the card, you put it back on top of your deck, you were wrong, nothing happens. There we go. Crankcase. Now, Crankcase in bot mode has a rather lovely little skill, whereby when you attack, if you've got 5 or more cards in hand, you get a +3 attack bonus until the end of turn. What happens if you've got 5 cards in hand when you attack, but during the battle you go down to 4 or fewer cards in hand? Do you lose the bonus? So let's take Raider Nightstick as an example. When you attack Raider Nightstick, and they flip at least 2 black icons, you have to choose a card from your hand and scrap it. So if you've got 5 cards in hand, you attack Nightstick, and then you have to scrap one of them, and then all of a sudden you've got 4 cards in hand. What happens? Nothing. Nothing at all. Because you see, the skill is activated when you attack. You attack, you look at the number of cards in your hand, you've got 5, you get the +3 attack. You then go down to 4 cards in hand, but you've already had the attack bonus, so nothing happens. Now, Horrible is a card, first of all, it's got a nice little pun in the name, also one of my favourite cards from the set. In alt mode, when you flip to it, you move 1 damage counter from this card to an enemy. Does that count as damaging the character to which I'm moving the damage, or repairing Horrible? And the answer is neither. Moving damage is not the same as dealing damage, and moving damage is not the same as repairing. So if you were to take something like, let's say your opponent had a Taurox on the other side of the field. Taurox has a rather annoying skill that says enemy characters can't be repaired. But it doesn't stop you moving damage, because it doesn't count as repairing. Now, if moving did count as repairing, you wouldn't be able to do this, but it doesn't, so you totally can. Megatron Fallen Hero. Now, when it's sitting there in ult mode, and you defend, and you flip at least one orange icon, you do 1 damage to the attacker after the battle. Well, if you're KO'd during the battle, do you still get to drop that damage after the battle? Yes. And it goes back to exactly what we just talked about with Crankcase. As soon as you do the attack, or in this case the defending, as soon as your opponent starts the attack, the ability is activated. And then it's going to fire. And it ain't going to be stopped. Mind Wipe. Now, Mind Wipe comes along in ult mode, and when you flip to ult mode, you choose a battle icon color, look at your opponent's hand, and you scrap a card from it that has at least 1 battle icon of that color. Okay, what if it's a hybrid battle icon? Now, for those of you that might be new, the hybrid battle icons are the ones that are both a color, but they've also got a symbol in them, such that they can basically only be used by a particular type of character. So, to take as a nice little example here, we could look at Headbutt. Headbutt has 2 black icons, but they're Titan Masters. So they are, and we did see this before, they are black icons, but they only give the extra pierce that black icons usually give when it is flipped and a Titan Master is attacking. When a non-Titan Master is attacking, you do not get the pierce 2, but they still count as black icons, so if you're Mind Wipe and you call black and you see Headbutt, you definitely can get rid of it, because they do still count as black icons, even though when you're flipping, you only get the benefit of them when they are flipped for a Titan Master. Topspin in ult mode's got a skill: when you defend, you get tough until the end of the battle, equal to your bold. So if you've got bold free and you defend, you have tough free. Nice. What if you don't have any bold? Then you don't do anything. Like, you get tough equal to your bold. If you've got bold 0, you get tough 0. Although, my point here, and I will be honest, the FAQ does allude to this as well, play Clobber. Okay, to be fair, they say maybe there's a head that will give you bold. I'm saying play Clobber, because Clobber gives you bold free, but you've got tough equal to your bold, which means you also get tough free. Seems like that's quite a lot of value in one card right there. If you've got bold 1 and tough 1 and you defend, what happens? Tough 2. You flip 2 extra battle cards while defending. You've already got tough 1. Your skill then gives you tough 1 because you've got bold 1. And now I've spent the last couple of years as a maths teacher, and I can confirm with professional expertise that 1 + 1 = 2. So you would get yourself tough 2. Now, Trax in ult mode has a lovely skill whereby when you flip to it, one of your characters gets +1 until end of turn, but if it shares a trait with Trax, you get +2 until end of turn instead. And this has led some people to ask the question, alright, what's a trait? Well, for Trax, it's either car or melee. So, if the character you are granting the bonus to is a car or a melee character, they get +2 attack. If they're not, they only get +1 attack. And I know for some of you watching that might be a very obvious question. You might have been playing this game for a while and gone, Wossy, we all know what traits are. Well, newer players might not. And the great thing about getting a new expansion of a card game like Transformers, firstly, lots of new cards. Who doesn't want new cards? Secondly, new players. So let's be nice to them, shall we? I mean, there's a reason I finish every video with be nice. And then, if you, same with still attracts, what if I pick a melee car? Do I get +4 attack or +3 attack? No, still +2. Trax does not say it gets +2 for each trait it shares. It says if it shares a trait, you get +2. Doesn't matter how many traits it shares, you just get +2. And finishing off then, we've got Wingspan. Now, Wingspan comes along in bot mode with a skill whereby when an upgrade is scrapped from this, you put it under him. And then, of course, you've got alt mode, where when you flip to this mode, you draw a card, but for our purposes, more importantly, you get +1 defense for each card under him. So the theory is, get lots of upgrades scrapped when you're in bot mode, and then flip to alt mode and have a gigantic defense. And some people have asked for clarification as to exactly what that means. What it means is that they are only serving, the upgrades under Wingspan serve a single solitary purpose. They are adding to the defense of Wingspan. They're not in play, they're not in your scrap pile, they can't be recovered. So let's say for argument's sake there's an armor and you try playing Hunker Down to attach it to a tank you've got in play. Wouldn't work because it's not in play. Similarly, it's not in play, so your opponent would not be able to play something like a ramming speed and scrap it because it's not in play. It is out of play, except that it is granting the extra defense bonus to Wingspan. And there we go. Lots of fun new rulings, and as of all of these, and I do miss when they were weekly. I loved when these were weekly rules roundups. Nowadays, they're doing it kind of once per set, and it's just not as much fun for me, I'll be honest with you. But we need to know these rulings. If you're going to be playing a Transformers trading card game, you need to know the rulings. We're not going to try making some super gigantic video with battle card rulings in as well. We will get the battle card rulings in another video, I don't know, maybe tomorrow. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about all of these rulings. Do any of them surprise you? Are there any you particularly like? And, of course, are there any questions you still have? Chuck them in the comment section, and I'm sure myself or someone else will get to them. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy. That's where we talk Transformers and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.